Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Market Snapshot series. My name is Rufas Kamau, Markets Analyst at FX Pesa. So once you join in, kindly say hi in the live comment section, and these will confirm that everything is working just fine. So we're just getting started with the first day of the week, and of course, this will be the first week of the November month. And also, we will be having quite a number of events happening in the markets this week. So hello, Casper, and welcome. Thank you for your response. So let's get things started. So first things first, we look at the economic calendar, try to understand the upcoming events for the week. And once we are through with that, we try and identify which ones have the highest market potential. Then later on, we do some technical analysis. So let's get this started. So we're starting with the economic calendar. And of course, as we may all know, Monday is usually a slow day in the markets. So last night, or basically on Sunday, European clocks were adjusted backwards by 1 hour in what we call the daylight saving time shift. So this is usually done to optimize the number of daytime hours that have sunlight. So if the sun slightly moves towards the evening, the daylight shift happens forward. And of course, if it's towards the morning, then the daylight saving time is moved backwards. So today, we have quite a number of events happening in the markets. First things first was retail sales month over month at 3:30 a.m., where we show a huge improvement in our Australian retail sales, which came in at 0.9%, higher than the projected 0.3%, and of course, higher than the previous number, which was 0.3%. So going forward for the rest of the day, we have a preliminary data point, which is the German preliminary CPI or consumer price index, which is basically a measure of inflation in Germany, and it may have some impact on the euro. We'll also be seeing data from Switzerland, which will be the KOF economic barometer, then Spanish flash CPI or consumer price index indicating the level of inflation in Spain. Then German preliminary GDP quarter over quarter, this will be at midday. Then later we'll be having UK news ranging from M4 money supply at 12:30. You'll be seeing the mortgage approvals for the UK. And of course, the net lending to individuals month over month, and all will be released at 12:30 p.m. So besides that, we don't have any other data points coming in for the day, which in summary indicates that we have a price action territory where a lot of investors and traders are not focused on the news announcements from the economic calendar, but rather they'll be focused on price action patterns as well as key price levels in the markets. So going on for the rest of the week, these are quite an impactful news for each and every day of the week. So beginning with Tuesday, we'll be looking at the interest rate decision by the Bank of Japan, and this will be tentative in the morning, and then later on we'll be seeing the Bank of Japan press conference. So we'll also be getting inflation data for the Eurozone or CPI flash estimate at 1 p.m. on Tuesday. Then GDP from Canada, this will be at 3:30 p.m. Employment cost index for the US, and of course, the Conference Board Consumer Confidence Survey at 5 p.m. Later on, we'll get jobs data from New Zealand, and this will basically indicate the labor market conditions in New Zealand, followed by a speech by the Reserve Bank of New Zealand Governor Adrian Orr. Then later on, we will be having the ADP non-farm employment change, followed by a speech by SNB Chairman Jordan. And then towards the end of the day, we'll get the ISM manufacturing PMI, job openings, as well as ISM manufacturing prices. Before we look at weekly crude oil inventories, and then the most important data point for the week, which will be the US or the Federal Reserve Bank of the US interest rate decision, where we overall expect the Fed to hold interest rate steady at 5.50%. So later on Thursday, we'll be having a Swiss CPI, and then another interesting decision by the Bank of England at 3 p.m. on Thursday. So towards the end of the day on Thursday, we'll have a speech from SNB Chairman Jordan. And of course, Thursday will also be the key day where Apple announces its Q3 earnings. So it will also be very important on the stock market side. Then towards the end of the week, we basically get the US non-farm payrolls. So yes, it's the NFP week. And of course, the report is coming at the same time with the Canadian jobs data. So there will be employment change as well as the unemployment rate for Canada. And of course, average hourly earnings for the US non-farm employment change and the unemployment rate. So final important data point for the week will be the ISM services PMI, and these will be released at 5 p.m. on Friday. So clearly, it's quite an explosive week, with the key highlight being that Tuesday we'll have a major economic announcement. So the most important one for Tuesday is the Bank of Japan interest rate decision. The most important one for Wednesday, it will be the US federal funds rate or interest rate decision by the Fed. Then an interest rate decision by the Bank of England on Thursday. And of course, the non-farm payrolls on Friday. So it's an action-packed week. Make sure you get ready. And of course, if you are having any doubts, always practice proper risk management. So besides that, there's quite a number of other events that we will be expecting for the week. So one of them is a bill that is expected to be a solo bill that is has been proposed in US Congress, and this is to raise money to support Israel. So that may have a big impact in the markets, especially if the US was to pass a huge funding for Israel. Then it could potentially cause a rally in US defense stocks. And of course, for investors that are currently trying to get to safety, betting that the current conflict in the Middle East could worsen, they are basically going for safe haven assets. So in such a case, if such was to happen, then there's a high likelihood that we could see a stronger rally in gold as well as in oil prices. So those that's one of the key things to watch for the day as well as for the rest of the week. So besides this, I don't think there's any major news that we are expecting. So if you have any questions or chat that you'd like us to focus on today, always feel free to type that in the live comment section, and I'll be able to respond to that right away. So just checking quickly if there's anything I missed. Yes, so I missed something. The top US equity indices, which is basically the S&P 500, the Nasdaq Tech 100, and of course the Dow Jones Industrial Average. They all went further back downwards last week, with the Nasdaq being the first one to break the 10% rule, basically moving downwards by over 10% since its recent high, which is a stock market indicator that shows that that particular index has entered correction territory. So it's the same thing for the S&P 500 and of course the Dow. And this basically means that now investors are no longer thinking of the market as bullish. We basically officially entered a bearish market last week. So this week, our stocks have opened really strong. So we'll be watching closely to see how this development pans out for the rest of the week. So we'll be having more companies reporting their earnings this week. So besides Apple, we'll also be focusing on earnings from McDonald's, AMD, or Advanced Micro Devices, Caterpillar, Qualcomm, Eli Lilly, Pfizer, Airbnb, as well as DoorDash. So just to get a comprehensive list of the companies reporting earnings this week, I'll be sharing this link with you from Kiplinger. Monday, the key highlight is basically McDonald's, which is a big employer in the US, and of course the largest retail besides Amazon. Then AMD on Tuesday will be the key highlight. Then as we move on for the rest of the week, we'll be having Airbnb reporting on Wednesday. Also, we will be looking at American International Group or AIG. Then towards the end of the week, we basically get the number of earnings reports getting smaller and smaller. So also key companies like PayPal as well as Roku will be reporting this week on Wednesday. So Thursday is the Apple day. This is when we get earnings from Apple. And I think a lot of investors will be very much focused on Apple. Then as we approach the end of the week, I'll also be getting earnings from ConocoPhillips as well as Crocs, DraftKings, Dropbox, Lilly, and so on. So last day of the week, we don't have any major notable earnings, but of course, we will be seeing AMC Networks reporting on Friday. BoE Global Markets, which is the company that provides the BoE indices. And that's it. That's it for the week. We don't have much happening there. So let me share the link with you so that in case you need to make a reference and identify which stocks are basically reporting their earnings this week, then you can reference from the link I've just shared there. So hi, Eunice. I can see Robbie, Buju, Copy Paul, Gas Boys, J Squad. Thank you guys and for joining the session. Hi, Jesse, Agnes, I can see Charlie. Welcome back, Charlie. Hi, James, as well as Christopher Mutua. So let's get to the next part of the presentation. And this is where we basically look at the key set prices and how they are performing for the week, and potentially identify key price levels and potential market opportunities. So one key thing to note is that the dollar index has been pretty strong. Last week was quite strong momentum, having opened with a slow Monday. The big sell-off on Monday. So Tuesday, we reversed everything that happened on Monday. Then Wednesday, we kept going up. Thursday, higher. And Friday, market went down, but eventually managed to close at a significantly small loss. So this day, or the beginning of this week, there was a slight gap to the downside. Market covered that gap. And what we are seeing here is a continuously strong dollar. And that might continue to be the theme for the day. So it makes more sense to trade with the bias that the dollar is strong and may continue being strong for the rest of the week. So what does a strong dollar mean? It basically means that we keep seeing some further downside in a pound USD currency pair. So if I remove everything from this chart, then we start from a higher time frame, and this is on the daily chart. It's quite clear for everyone why the pound USD may continue trading down lower. So if I move to a smaller time frame, in this case, the 4-hour chart, then I zoom out, you can see that there is a really strong trend line acting here as the resistance. And I'll try to get as close as possible to these edges. So that has been quite definitive trend line indicating the resistance in a pound USD currency pair. So we also notice that there was a major swing point here, which was acting as support. So this area here was acting as support and now turned into a resistance. And now if I zoom my chart, it makes more sense now. So you can see the swing high here followed by the swing high here, basically indicating that the market is continuously moving downwards. And now the pound USD currency pair is looking to retest the low that we last saw in the last 4 weeks. So it's a 4-week low with the key price level being 1.20367. So from the 1-hour chart, this is how it looks like. So it's a market that has been quite crazy with some good volatility. And now if I zoom out, you can see that for the last couple of days, a key trend line has been developing here, acting as the major support level. So if I zoom in here, notice this bottom, second, third, and fourth time. And now if I adjust my trend line correctly, this should get right there. So as you can see, there's still more downside potential for pound USD. Our key price level will be this 4-week low, which we saw right here as the bottom at 1.20367. But then the expectation for the day is that we keep seeing some further downside momentum on pound USD, backed by a strong dollar, and this would drop this particular trend line here. So potentially getting to this area here, and this is a price level of about 1.20588. So as for Euro USD, which is generally the most traded currency pair in the market, we are seeing the big sell-off that kept on happening last week. Our market attempted to make a recovery, found resistance at 1.05978, and is now erasing gains. So what we are looking at is the potential of the market retesting Friday's low, which is somewhere around 1.05322. So I expect that this reversal may continue for the rest of the day. And in the very short run, we could be seeing the Euro USD retesting this area, which was the lowest price on Friday. So as for USD JPY, we know that we have been very much concerned with any level above 150. So whenever you see USD JPY trading at 150, then you know it's trouble, because the Bank of Japan could potentially intervene at any time. So it happened here, happened the second time here, and also we had a footprint here when the market went all the way up above 150. So from the 1 hour chart, this is how it looked like. So on a Thursday, we could see the big spike up and then downwards, and then the market eventually generally went down towards the end of the week. So today there has been an attempt to go back downwards, followed by a very nice spinning top candlestick. So a candlestick that may be described as a spinning top tends to have long tails on each side, and the body of the candlesticks close to the center of the candle. So what this means is that the market went straight for a major support level in USD JPY, didn't find any momentum to keep going. So buyers came in and reversed prices and pushed them much higher. So from what we are seeing with the second candlestick, it's similar with what we saw last week. I think this was on Monday. Sorry, it was on Tuesday. And now from there, we saw the price accelerating, get back to target 149.698, and even higher to target 2, which was 150. So in this case, I expect a similar kind of price action, judging by the strong dollar. And in this case, the market retesting this area and potentially breaking and moving higher towards the 150 price level. So there's the likelihood that the USD JPY will rally back to 150 price level. But then again, you have to be very careful. So if you're trading this pair, know that the Bank of Japan may choose to intervene at any given time. So this basically gives you a fair warning. So you must practice proper risk management at all times. And if you're trading USD JPY, you must be very careful. Even the mistake of entering a trade and then setting the stop loss later would happen to be very bad for you. So you have to set your stop loss at entry just to make sure that nothing can go wrong. So we have also looked at Euro USD. So as for USD CAD, we saw this bullish momentum happening last week. And then from the daily chart, this is how it looks like. So I mentioned that we have a major resistance level happening here, and then here, and now the third time the market is retesting this area here. So when the market is testing a major resistance level, especially on the daily, it's usually very important for any trader out there to be patient and wait for evidence of bearish entry. So we don't have any major candlesticks indicating a reversal here. So the market just losing momentum around this area, which basically means that it's safe to assume that this breakout is probably not happening because our volume has significantly reduced. But then it's also important to map the consolidation and how it's playing out. So we have a consolidation here. And from this consolidation, from the 15 minutes chart, what I'm seeing is a market that is forming a falling wedge. So in this case, just be patient and then observe this consolidation until there's enough momentum to show you a direction. So in this case, we are looking for potential breakout towards the lower side. And if this plays out, then the market breaks below the trend line, then it may be the trigger we are looking for to trade this reaction to this resistance. So the resistance has been pretty strong. So if the market shows evidence of bearish entry, then that will be a pretty strong signal to go for short selling trades. But then if that doesn't happen and the market cruises higher, then the idea will be to look for bullish positions. So all you have to do is to be patient and observe the consolidation as the market plays out for the week. So gold, on the other hand, managed to cruise through the proverbial 2000 price level. But remember, we had discussed this and we had seen the potential of gold eventually getting to the 1997 price level, which was the previous high here on the previous 1 week before last week. And now last week, the market cruised through that, got to the 2000 price level, and it is now seemingly coming back. So from the daily time frame, this is how it looks like. So for anyone who is observing the daily price action, you can count the number of candlesticks where the market was going up and the number of candlesticks where the price was going down. And clearly you'll see from the number and magnitude, it's a very strong bullish market. So in this case, judging by the numbers and weekly candlesticks, we've had 3 consecutive candlesticks where gold was gaining against the dollar. And this has erased the price action of months of price action where gold was continuously losing to the dollar. So in this case, what this basically means is that there's a very strong bullish momentum, which may be indicative of a flight to safety, especially considering the current conflict in the Middle East. And of course, the Russia-Ukraine war is still being played out. So it's not like the war in Middle East eliminated the one in Ukraine. So now there's 2 major wars happening across the world, and investors are basically observing and reacting to the news. So in this case, there's a high likelihood that we will be seeing some further upside in gold for the week. So in this case, one thing to remember is that if you use this trend line here, and now you zoom in and you look at the price action right now, then it basically means that the best entry point or value area is of course on the trend line or below. And of course, if you are deciding to go for any bullish momentum trades, then the idea is to set the stop loss below the trend line. So for instance, if you decide to, let's say, go for a buy trade here, and you decide that gold price is moving higher, then your stop loss should probably be somewhere below the trend line in order to avoid the price action that may happen in between. So from what we are seeing here, after the open of the market early morning, gold managed to close the gap, went back down and then up and has continuously gone down for the rest of the day. So what we are seeing here is this high that we last saw on Wednesday last week being retested here. So it happens, if it happens to prove as a strong support for gold, then we could be seeing some further upside. But then that depends on the price action that will be printed here. So all you have to do is be patient, observe the price behavior around this area. And if there's evidence of a strong entry by buyers, then in this case, we trade higher. But then if there's no such evidence, then we be patient and wait for the market to retest this area and then look for an opportunity around here. So AUD-USD, I will try to move faster now. I think our time is almost up. So AUD-USD managed to bounce off the lower trend line strongly. And this was on Thursday. On Friday, kept going up. And then today on Monday, the journey continues. So of course, if you're still in the bullish trade, you keep holding up until you get to the target. And the target is the previous swing high points, which is 0.63884. So there's still that high likelihood that a very strong Australian dollar may continue to cruise higher and eventually get to this area. So US equity indices have opened the week strongly, while the Nasdaq hasn't been that strong. We saw a big gap towards the upper side, and now the market is continuously attempting to move even higher. So this might be the recovery week for US equity indices. So on the daily, if you measure the most recent high, and then you estimate that with the low that we saw last week, you can see the Nasdaq was down 11.7%. So right now, as we speak, it's still down over 10%, which basically means that the market is in correction territory. So while the upside may seem to be something that is quite interesting, the downside is more important. So in this case, with a market that has just entered a correction territory, it basically makes more sense to look for short positions rather than bullish positions. So from what we are seeing here, there's an emerging pattern, and the emerging pattern seems to be taking this shape here. So from this high and this sequence of highs, we have this. So in this case, for today, we expect some further upside momentum. So we could be seeing even the market retesting this area here. So the upside potential is really high, but then the idea long term is to look for short selling positions, especially when the market rallies and gives you good entry opportunities. So for the US 30 is the similar case. So a market that is consistently moving downwards. If you measure from the most recent high, this is what we are seeing. So this is the most recent high. Most recent low on Friday last week, down 9.37%. So it hasn't entered the correction territory yet, but the correlation is quite striking with the other indices. And today we are seeing a strong recovery from the big sell-off that we saw on Friday last week. So in this case, for now, it might make sense to trade it upwards. In this case, expecting the market to retest this previous low, which now may be acting as resistance, and of course the highest price on Friday. So we could be seeing the market gunning for this area, but then the idea is to long-term look for short selling positions. Short-term, for instance, today we remain bullish on these equity indices, and of course for the S&P 500, if you go to the most recent high from the daily chart, you can easily estimate from this area going downwards and notice that on Friday it was down 10.94%, and it's still down 10% today. So in this case, the bullish momentum may present an opportunity to go short again. So as for UK oil, we are seeing some good consolidation. So after we saw a flag formation, a breakout, and then a rally, our market traded within a channel for a couple of days, broke towards the lower side, and now what we are seeing here is a consolidation. So everything is basically screaming indecision in the market. So we will be looking for something that is fueling the markets. And of course, a potential breakout will be very nice for any person who is trading oil. So this being the upper trend line for the last 1 week. Of course, the lower trend line taking this shape here. Then what we are looking is a market that is largely consolidating. So we will be waiting to trade along the edges, either if the market bounces from here or breaks out. And of course, whether the market bounces from this other end or breaks out towards the lower side. So these edges will be pretty important for any Brent oil trader. So European equity indices making the strongest comeback of all. So the French 40 index is making a very good rally and is almost erasing all the losses that it happened to experience on Friday last week. So it seems like this was a good bouncing point, and the market is currently on a strong rally. So Euro 50 cash index also making a very strong comeback from the big sell-off that we saw on Friday. So there's still more room for upside with the target around 4,071. And of course, for the UK FTSE 100, we are seeing yet another strong comeback following the big sell-off on Friday. So here the market is making a good rally and has already erased the losses that we saw on Friday last week. So as for Bitcoin, we remain within the consolidation zone. So consolidations can change. In this case, I believe that now we are following a path along this area here, which is now indicative more of a flag. So there is a flag formation happening in Bitcoin. So potentially there'll be a break, perhaps further in the week, and that will present a nice trading opportunity once we have a direction from the breakout. So in this case, these are the two trend lines that I would be largely monitoring to understand any form of breakout. So thank you very much, everyone. thank you for your time. US recorded growth, IGDP, grew above estimates, but quarterly earnings are disappointing. How can you explain this? Quarterly earnings are not disappointing per se. I think Microsoft surprised everyone with some really upbeat earnings. We saw some good earnings coming in from Google or Alphabet. Sorry for that. We also had some good earnings reports coming from Meta or Facebook. So in this case, I don't think the earnings have been weak. So while some particular sectors have been affected, especially in the automotive industry, other industries, especially in the tech sector, has really done well. GDP is pretty strong, and this is more pressure on the Fed to basically hike interest rates. And in this case, what we're experiencing is investors betting on a stronger dollar, and today's open is quite evident that investors are very positive about the strength of the dollar. So another question noted the DXY and gold moved in similar direction. However, gold was more pronounced. Is this because of the Middle East crisis? Usually they are negatively correlated. Yes, that's true. So as I've always mentioned that financial assets tend to be correlated sometimes, but correlations are not permanent. So there are at times when, let's say, the dollar will be moving in the opposite direction with, let's say, the S&P 500, and there are some times when they'll be moving in the same direction, depending on what is fueling the markets. So right now, the key thing that is fueling the markets is fear about an expansion or escalation of the Middle East conflict. And investors are basically running for safety or basically looking for safe haven assets. So in this case, one of the best safe haven assets is the US dollar, mainly because if you park money in the dollar and buy some bonds, they have a yield, and the yield is currently really high, with the 10-year bond hitting 5%. So there's no other asset that will be safer and give you 5% free money. So on the other hand, gold prices had really dropped downwards, and now investors were betting that if I use a position in gold to basically stay away from the uncertainties and risks coming from the Middle East conflict, then it basically might give me even higher than 5%. So also some investors put some money in gold. So if there's a ceasefire in the Middle East, then that should be very bearish for gold as investors return to risk-on mode. So in this case, that's something you should be pretty concerned about. If there's no ceasefire and the conflict gets to escalate further, then in that case, it may be bullish for gold. So also, oil is a good bet. So a lot of investors are betting on oil, basically as a hedge against any escalation in the Middle East conflict, because it would definitely affect the supply dynamics. So US Tech 100, that's what I'm basically describing as the NASDAQ. So the NASDAQ has been one of the top performing indices of the year, but then also as we enter a correction territory, then there's that potential that we'll be seeing some further upside. And as we have seen from the Kiplinger site, there's still a very large number of companies that have not reported their earnings yet. And one of the biggest companies reporting earnings this week will basically be Apple. So when Apple reports, Apple has a very strong weighting in the NASDAQ index, and it has the biggest potential to move the NASDAQ this week. On top of that, we'll be seeing the non-farm payrolls on Friday, and of course, the Fed interest rate decision on Wednesday. So all these have the potential to move the NASDAQ. So if you are a person who specifically trades the NASDAQ, then you should be expecting some strong volatility to be affecting the NASDAQ index this week. So thank you very much, guys. Thank you for your time. I think I've covered everything that you guys suggested, and I hope to see you on the next one. So I think I missed something. I think there was a request to check on New Zealand USD. So New Zealand USD is currently facing a very strong resistance area here. So in this case, this is, I think, the cleanest move pattern that we will find for the day. So for the person who suggested it, thank you. It's Christopher Mutua. So in this case, we are seeing a very strong trend line and a very strong dollar. And now what we are seeing here from the price action is evidence of bearish entry by sellers. In this case, indicating that the market may now be headed lower. So we could be seeing some further downside momentum, eventually retesting that day's low. So I think this is a pretty interesting potential opportunity. So if you're just beginning your trading journey, you should perhaps trade this on your demo account. Just set your stop loss above the trend line or even above the most recent high, just somewhere around here. And your take profit around the bottom here, which is the low that we saw on that day, and then be patient. Let's see how this plays out. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you on the next session. So remember to subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can get updates whenever we have another live session.